change specialist Johanse Ayodike joins me on set to discuss another interesting topic for our Mental Health Matters Thursday. Johanse, welcome. Great to see you as always, man.
Jason, thank you very much and good morning to everyone.
Good morning. We're dealing today with the double negative. I look forward because I have no idea what a double negative is. So I'm literally on the side of learning as always this morning. What exactly you mean when you say double negative?
All right, so this came out of a conversation I was having with my mom. My mom is a retired English teacher, so she's very versed with language. And she asked me, if I remember correctly, she said, you don't want to go down the road. And I was asking her, do you want to know if I want to go or if I don't want to go? Right? And then she said, oh gosh, you know we Trinis like to speak in double negative. Right? And then I asked her about it and realized that we ask and we speak about what we don't want to do or what we don't want versus what we want. So we use negative. Let me give you a next example. So let's say it's the first time I'm wearing an outfit. I will say I never wear it before versus saying this is the first time I wear it.
Oh.
So we speak about the negative aspects of things instead of talking about the positive aspects of it.
Is that something cultural?
I realize that yes, but I'm not even sure what's the genesis of it, and I'm bringing it up today for us to even try to figure out what's the genesis of why we speak negatively. And I realize also from speaking a lot of negative things, even though it's double negative, we don't want the negative, but we still speak in the negative, and it also causes, especially in relationships, a communication gap, because what you will say is, you will say, you don't want to go down the road with me. You don't want to line with me versus, do you want to line with me?
Yeah. Understood. It's true. Because it's almost like you're starting in a place of minus.
Yes.
As opposed to just establishing, okay, let's do this, as opposed to, well, you don't want to, or I didn't think you was going to call, you know. Yeah.
Versus,
I didn't think you was going to come.
Why didn't you call, or are you going to call? And I'm saying that, and it's important because, one, sometimes people could get on the defensive. If you say what you don't want and the negative aspect of it versus saying what you want. And I will even add an aspect. If we go in from let me say, a non-scientific point of view, when we speak about the negative all the time, even though we think it's in a positive way because it's a double negative, we negating the negative, it's still us speaking a lot of negativity.
You know, I don't know if it's in the same vein, but what about parents who, they love the child, you know, and they you know, they're proud, but they don't really say it to the child per se. So when people are around, they will bring up some kind of mama guy story, or they'll try to, you know, I guess it's their way of probably keeping especially the child on a particular level. They will, among friends sometimes, or fellow family members, will bring up some kind of story, everybody will laugh, care, but sometimes the person might not really see the laughter or the joke in it, and they might see it as a kind of negative, but they'll play along. I've seen people do that sometimes, where parents or people who are guardians will use the opportunity in a public domain to give a kind of mama guy story. Is that like a double negative?
Yes, and I'm glad you bring that up because it makes me wonder why we Trinidadians, not all, sometimes, let's call it, we don't want to acknowledge the good in something. We would see things happening and we try to nitpick what's the one negative thing I could see in it, and then probably make a joke of it. And of course, sometimes the joke is not funny because it has at someone else's expense. And I'm wondering, you see, culturally, let me give you an example. Someone told me already that we Trinidadians don't acknowledge our celebrities, right? We don't give people the kudos. We always trying to bring people down, right? Tell them come down from there. And it could be, because I've heard parents say, they don't want the child to feel too good. So they bring up certain things.
Yeah, that's the mindset. You know, you can't get too ahead of yourself. So, you know, we keep you on a level. We remind you.
It's too far, boy, sometimes.
Yeah. Because we mama guy a lot, you know. I'm glad you brought that up. People who are in the public domain, entertainers, whether it be business interests, whoever. Someone is now a public figure, and we find a way to. You must find, as I said, one aspect. It could be the person's clothing. It could be a particular hairstyle on that given day. It could be something that was mismatching. You find one thing to knock the person to let them know, hey, you think it's a way to kind of keep people in check, to make sure you stay grounded? Make sure that you do end up in the clouds, so that you know that when you go out the road, no matter who you are, you could still get a little pecan.
It could be that, but again, I think sometimes we're not balanced. People don't balance it, because I prefer too much good instead of too much bad, if you understand what I'm saying. It's better you shower somebody with all the compliments than you just finding negative things. And if you're doing it, I know there's a method called the sandwich method. You give a positive, you give the negative, and then you end with a positive. And I think that's something that we could use. You look real good today, but let's say your socks didn't match, right? But I'm glad you made the effort to dress well. You made 97% in your schoolwork, but I know you see you make a silly mistake with the 3 marks, but I'm glad you made the effort to do your work good. So instead of just nitpicking, we are able to show the person the positive, keep them humble with showing them what they could do better, because hopefully that's the intent, to help.
So as a behavioral change specialist, if you're doing analysis with them, they're sitting on the couch, you're meeting with them, and you recognize, or they recognize through your advice, that they've been living this double negative for their entire life. Is that something that one can change? How does one even begin the process to actively change the mind to come out of this particular double negative, if this is something you practice all the time?
Practice it on yourself first. Think about, because sometimes, because we do it to others, most likely we do it to ourselves. We look at ourselves, and there's so many accomplishments we have, but we look at the one thing we didn't do correct. We had a real good day, but then we look at that one thing, and then we inflate that one thing that make it overshadow. So start with yourself, whether it is sitting and making a list of all the things you're doing well. If you don't want to sit down and write, you could sit down and just think about it. What good did I accomplish today? Don't think about the bad yet. Don't think about what you could do with what I accomplished today. And then my wife gave my method. Look in the mirror and tell yourself something nice. Sometimes these things sound trivial, but if you're hearing negativity all the time, that's what you will become. And sometimes you have to take it upon yourself to find the positivity in yourself.
Yes, true. I like the whole concept of self-reflection and trying it on yourself first, and then you can make the adjustment with others, because it's something we see all the time. That double negative, that is part of the hallmark of, not all Trinbagonians obviously, but a lot of us operate in that manner. That's just the way we communicate. Correct.
And I like these conversations because we highlight a lot of things that we do in the culture that sometimes not to our benefit, And I think it's about time we don't just say, well, it's the culture, right? It's just us, it's just who we are. It's like, in a relationship, somebody doing something toxic, and they say, well, that's just how I am, right? That's not a good excuse. That we should always strive to do better. We are a maturing nation, and if there are things that not working for us, it's better we make, even if it's small effort, to change it.
Yeah, and I guess with the generations to come, they are the ones to really, I guess if we start the adjustment from now, hopefully it could impact the generation to come, and at some point it could fade away, because let's be real, I think lots of ways that we communicate, they learn from us. Some they hold on to, the youngsters doing their own adjustments, having their own way of communication.
Right.
But I guess that's what culture is about, the handing down, and how does one change culture? It takes a while to change culture and mindset.
And that's why I say it should start with you first.
Yeah.
Right? We hear about the man in the mirror. Talk to yourself. Look at yourself first and see all those things that you do well, and give yourself the criticism too, and then of course you could start practicing it with your husband, your wife, your child, etc.
How does one approach this, let's say in a workplace, where that is a workplace environment, and probably a superior using that kind of double negative language, or kind of double negative, I would say, putting that perspective on you as it pertains to, let's say, your work that you take pride in?
To the superior, I would say the same method. Look to see first what the person did well. Let's just say they had 10 things to do, and they did 3 well and 7 off. What the result you want is for them to do all well. But if you realize you're just talking about the negative, all it didn't do, it not yielding the results, then concentrate on the three first. I'll give you an example. I remember somebody brought their child to me because he didn't want to go to class and he wasn't going to class and he always late or he was ducking class. And he came to the session. The session is an hour and he came with 10 minutes to remain. And I told him, thank you very much for coming. I'm so thankful for this 10 minutes with you. And he watched me like, this man's strange. And then every time he came late again. But every time I complimented him, he started coming earlier and earlier and earlier. Now it took a little while until one day he was there before me. And then I realized for some people, and you have to know the person you're dealing with. And actually I would say don't use negativity for anybody. Find that positivity in them and then build on it. So it's like a small seed, you water it. The negativity might be all there. But if you water that seed, it will outgrow the negative.
But what if someone, you do think, now again, I'm not suggesting here that what your recommendation is flawed. I think it is a good recommendation and it's something I practice all the time. But if you're hearing positive all the time and then someone out the road might just hit you with something that will really shake your cage, how does one treat with that? Because I don't want people to get the impression that, I guess you can't lie to them too. The positive must be something that's real and authentic.
Right. You're not making up something.
Yeah, you're not going to mama guy and just, you're just pampering somebody.
Correct.
You're dealing with the truth.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I'll go back to the sandwich method I spoke about before. You give them the positive, you build them up, and then you say, I noticed these things that you didn't do well. And you could give them suggestions, and then also he ended with, okay, thank you very much for listening, thank you very much for making the effort, something along those lines. So they leave with, I know I did well, but I have some improvements to make, and I know I could do it.
You want to say, I'll give you the closing remarks.
People, don't stay or concentrate on the negative. There are positive aspects to everyone and yourself. That doesn't mean that there aren't areas to improve. Don't make life complicated, because even though life is not easy, it's really not that hard. Thank you for listening.
Johansi Iudike touching base with us for our Mental Health Matters Thursday. We thank him for his presence, always making the time to share with us and give us the nuggets of inspiration to go into the weekend and the next week. Let's get ready to take you across to Arima. After the break, a very interesting, I would say, showcase is about to go down. And, well, it already started. It's going until March the 16th. Death on the Skin. Let's get details. And the venue is at the East Yard in Arima. Full details after the break.